All right, everybody, listen up. I'm going to share 6 ways that the rich just think differently and how these 6 mental changes allowed me to make my first $1 million after tax, after expenses, everything at the age of 21 years old. This will be a very powerful video, and I want you to listen very closely because most people will not take the time to invest into their thinking. They're just looking for the right strategy, the right tool, the right step-by-step system, and I can give that to you. You know, the very, very top of my description, I've left linked a video that I consider to be one of the most powerful videos on my channel where I describe the exact business model that I used to make my first million, and you can model it step by step, but that's not what this video is for. This video is the high-level philosophies, thinking patterns, and sort of headspace changes that enabled me to, create the businesses that I've created today. And I've taught these to many other people, and they've succeeded as well. And these aren't things that you'll find in many other YouTube videos. I think it's a lot of things that people just don't talk about because most people are very surface level. And just the reality is they haven't actually built successful businesses that, aren't like education, how to, just course businesses and stuff like that. So let me talk about that in this video today right now. So the very first principle of the thinking of the rich is that they think in terms of time and energy, not in terms of money. So what I mean by this is instead of saying, how much money will this cost or how much money will I make, they think, what's the ROI on my energy and time, or how much energy and time will this cost? They understand that their most valuable, most precious resource is time and energy. Energy meaning the physical energy and mental energy, emotional energy that you wake up with every single day, and the time energy, the 8 good working hours that you have every single day to actually do productive, good work, not just in your business, by the way, but in your key relationships, your marriage, your kids, your whoever else, right? So they value their time far, far, far above money. And what's interesting is you think that the rich value money, but what I've found is more true is that the rich actually undervalue money compared to the common person. The common person puts money on such a pedestal that they're willing to sacrifice their time and energy to get it. And when they do this, they are then saying money is above me, and then they get controlled by money. And this brings me to one of my favorite scripture verses of all time, which is that you can't serve God and money. You can only pick one master. If God is your highest hierarchical peak and he is the one that you serve, or whatever value system you subscribe to, I personally am a strong Christian, then everything else falls into place. Seek first the kingdom, right? And so in this, I've found that if you overvalue money and you overvalue the acquiring of money, and you don't think in terms of how do I build a system that can go get the money, or build a team, or go build a process, which by the way is what we call a business, to go and make the money for me, then you'll end up trading hours for dollars, okay? And it was when I started to trade dollars for dollars, started to turn $1 into $10 with advertising for my consulting practices, that I began to actually build like real money. And that's because I value my energy and my time over my money. And I hope that this makes sense. And I've seen this trend amongst many very wealthy, very well-off individuals, and it's that you just can't get past their headspace. They've kind of got this like bubble of like, they won't let you affect them. They don't let negative news in. They don't do drama. They don't do these things because they value their energy and their headspace and their time more than they value money, which sounds a little bit twisted because on the outset, when you're viewing them from the surface, it looks like they really, really, really value money because they've got a lot of it. So they must really value it because they have a lot of it. It's actually the inverse. So it's a very interesting one that maybe is helpful for you. So let's move on to thinking or mental shift number 2 that the rich utilize. So the second tip is that I have noticed, and I've also practiced this in my life, that the word afford is not in my vocabulary. And what I mean by this is I'm not asking can I afford it or can't I afford it. More so, if I really want it, how can I afford it? Or if I don't want it, I probably don't want it for a good reason. It probably doesn't make me more money or it doesn't add value to my life in a tangible way, so therefore I'm not going to buy it. So it's not I can or can't afford it. It's not binary, can or can't. It's more nuanced. It's how can I afford it? And if I decide that I want it, or if I can't, then I just don't want it. And then I think kind of point 2.5 off of this, because point 2 is afford isn't in the vocabulary of the rich, but 2.5 off of this is the things that they buy are always things that return more later somehow. And in every instance, it doesn't matter what they buy. Even if it's a nice car, they're going to use that car to create networking opportunities. If it's a nice house, they'll host mastermind events at the house, right? If it's luxuries, they use them for a reason, right? The rich, they spend every single dollar in some way to advance their kingdom, advance their, the boundaries of their influence, right? And that's what I've found to be true. And so anyway, afford isn't in their vocabulary. They don't think afford. They think yes or no. If yes, and I can't afford it currently, how can I afford it? What should I do? What's the plan to go out and get to affording it? That isn't saving. That isn't putting money aside slowly over time so that I can, because that's still trading time for money. That's still trading your time for things, which, by the way, is why theft is illegal, is because you're stealing time from somebody, because most people are trading time for money. It's very interesting. When I first was dating my now wife, she saw my Jaguar. I had an F-Type at the time. It got hit, and she saw that I didn't really respond. I was like, oh, whatever. I hope the guy that hit it is okay. And it was a really nice car. And it was a really, really nice sporty car, and I was like 20 years old. And this was when I was just now on my come up, and I got a nice car. And she noticed that I didn't even react, and it wasn't even that big of a deal to me. It didn't faze me a bit. And she was like, well, how can you not be upset at all? I'm like, well, because it took me like a week to buy that. You know what I mean? And so I think, regular people, they overvalue their stuff because their stuff has taken so much time. But if you value your energy and you value your time, then naturally you end up in financial opportunities because you refuse to give anything more energy or time than is ultimately worth the trade for you, because you value your life, you value your time, your energy so much. So afford isn't in their vocabulary. Let's move on to thinking habit of the rich, number 3. So number 3 is that they are paid on their results, not on their effort or how hard they work. And I got this from a buddy of mine, and I really liked this. And basically the idea is, and I really agree with this, I think I did this subliminally without really realizing it, but at the end of the day, you are selling results. You're selling the outcome, not how hard you work. One of my old mentors, and I bought his programs back in the day, Sam Ovens, he was popping off like crazy in 2017, 2018. I bought some of his stuff. And he really emphasized sell the outcome of what you do for people and everything. And I was like, that's a new way of looking at things. And when I started to apply that idea to my business, I started to make a lot more money, because instead of selling a list of features and benefits and how many hours they get and everything, I started saying, well, if you do all the things that if you really get the most out of what I'm going to do for you and you do your part too, here's the outcome that we could see together. Here's what you could achieve, right? If you actually commit to this. And what's interesting is all of a sudden, the outcome of the thing that you're doing is so much more valuable than the amount of time it's going to take to get there, the effort it's going to take to get there. It's kind of like sell the vacation, not the plane ticket. So if you are a travel agent, you're going to sell people on their feet being in the sand in Hawaii, not on, a 14-hour red-eye flight, right? That's not what you're going to sell people. You're going to sell people a $10,000 vacation package, and the pictures behind you in your office when the customer's right in front of you is pictures of Hawaii and the beach and mimosas, and it's selling the vacation, not the journey to it. And in this way, the rich always get paid significantly more, not just because they sell the outcome, but because they can deliver the outcome over and over and over again. I've moved into a season of my career now, having done many different businesses, that I help people start theirs. I've helped 200 people get to $100,000 a year in earnings. And I'm one of the only people that I know that can say that truly. I mean, I know very few people, but the reality is, I understand how it works. I can replicate it. And having done that, I see the pattern on the wall. I see the writing on the wall that people who sell services are long gone. It's people who can promote and push outcomes and better futures for people that will stick around and stay in business and make a lot more money, especially if they can deliver on those outcomes, okay? So I want you to understand that a part of why you're probably still trading time for money is because you haven't talked to your boss, you haven't talked to whoever you work for, you haven't decided to go out and sell the outcome, okay? The reason why you are still making, $10 to $20, maybe $25, $30 an hour, which is a decent salary for some people, but it's because, you're not positioned yourself, you haven't positioned yourself properly, okay? So I hope that makes sense, and I hope that's a valuable tip. The rich get paid on the outcomes, the results that they drive, not how hard they work. If I were to sell somebody a $50,000 package, and it was, you do everything I tell you to do, guaranteed, you do everything I tell you to do, and it'll take you 3 hours a day. I promise you, it's a proven path, and hundreds of other people have done it, and it's gotten them all results. They've all built a $1 million business because of this formula or something. I guarantee you can get it. Would that be worth 50 grand to you? If you knew for a fact, if there was no lack of trust behind your eyes, there was no doubt that it could work for you, would you do it? And it's kind of a guaranteed yes because of the outcome, right? But then what if I told you it was only 3 hours of course material inside of there? It's 3 hours of content. But if you do everything it tells you to do, you'll get to 7 figures. And it's like, well, yeah, still maybe, because the outcome, $1 million business, right? So I know this is like an extreme example, but I hope that this makes sense. You know, the rich get paid on results and outcomes, not on the work that they put in or the amount of time that it takes for them. All right, so moving on to the fourth mindset shift of the rich, and this is a key one. I want you to really listen closely, because I think that this simple principle applied throughout your thinking and throughout your life, the ripple effects of it are ridiculous. And it's basically the idea of treating everything like a learning moment. So whether you have a negative response, say you're trying to sell somebody something, or you're in a business dealing with someone and it doesn't go well, seeing that as data instead of seeing it as, a negative thing. So if something goes poorly, it's just data. If something goes well, guess what? That's also data, and that's also just an objective reality that you can learn from. You can ask, what did I do well there that I can replicate in the future? So they see everything as an objective learning moment. And I've seen this pattern across, I've now gotten 26 people to $1 million a year, and they either came preloaded with this mentality when they started working with me, or I really drilled it into them that everything that they experience is simply a learning moment. So what didn't work about that thing that didn't work, and how do we prevent that in the future? Or what did work, and how do we replicate that? And so in this way, everything that they experience. So let's say you're trying to grow your influence on the internet. You're doing like what I'm trying to do right now, putting out content, building a brand, whatever, right? And you've put out 100 pieces of content, and only 5 do well. The other 95 are a waste of time and energy. Okay, what did you do in those 5? Look at the intro. How'd you start the piece of content? What did you talk about? What topics did well? What was the responses in the comments? Who shared it on their socials, right? Was it a topic that you maybe knew more about that people felt more informed on? And the other 95, the other 95, okay, what are some common themes you see in those? Was there a way that you approached that, a thinking pattern that you were using at the time to decide what content you were going to make, something like that, right? And through this, you create sort of this natural feedback loop of trying something, seeing its effect, having a learning moment, and then applying the new learned lesson to the next time you try. And when you create this and you have this humility about your efforts, it's really impossible to lose. It's only when your ego gets in the way and you decide that you already know it all that you stop growing, okay? And this is huge. I think, again, people tend to believe that the people who have done very well for themselves have almost this illusion of grandeur or sort of an ego about them, and sometimes they do, and admittedly, I think that is something that they can struggle with, because it is kind of hard to feel such an intense separation from your average person, making all this money and then watching them still like work a normal job, and you're just like, man, how do I deal with that sort of spiritually? But the reality is, they got there because of a humble learner's mindset. They might not stay there if they lose that humble learner's mindset, but they definitely got there because of it. Because they were willing to test, try, fail, learn, test again, try, learn, succeed, and learn from that success, and apply all failures and successes to their hypothesis for future testing, thinking like a scientist almost. So this is a huge, huge mental realization that helped me a ton. And it enables me to face massive, massive failures. Failures that would probably cripple my old self, the self that got started in business as a broke high school dropout kid with $300 in the bank at 18 years old. If he were to face the struggles that I'm facing today, he probably wouldn't even get out of bed because of the level of stress and pressure that it probably would have put on him at the time. But I've got this mentality now of like, well, if I win, I win, and what did I do right? And if I lose, I lose. What did I do wrong? And just learn from it. So hopefully that's a helpful sort of perspective shift. Let me get on to mindset shift number 5. So shift number 5 is that they are always investing into themselves somehow. Okay, so whether this is time spent around key people or listening to content like my channel or channels like mine, listening to people who have actually done it and are actually building businesses, and seeing what they have to say, books, reading the right books, investing into the right masterminds, courses, whatever, stuff like that. I've spent probably $200,000 of my own profits on different various masterminds, coaches, programs, stuff like that. and they've all returned a high yield because I apply the previous tip of keeping a learner's mentality as well as investing into myself. I think a lot of the time people invest and then they're like looking for the person to say things that they already think are true, and that never works because you have to come in with a pure student's mentality. Otherwise, the things that you really need are going to go in one ear and out the other because you weren't listening for them because you already had a bias. So I think that's how they stay at the top too. It's not just how they get there, but it's how they stay there. They continue to invest into key relationships, key groups, and whether they're paying to be in these groups or just investing time, right? You don't have to pay. If you know these people, send them a gift, send them a note, send them a book, invite them out to dinner on you, refer them a client or two, and actually invest into those relationships. If you look up to somebody, you really should invest into them. Send them clients, send them business, send them a thank you note, give them free labor, do something for them that adds value to them, and the reciprocity will build, I promise you. And the wealthy individuals that I know, they're always constantly do this. They got this this active list of 20 to 40 people at any given time that they're kind of investing into the relationship of. And I do this as well. I mean, I bought a Rolex Submariner. It's like a $12,000 watch aftermarket, like $9,500 through a dealer, and I bought it for one of my clients who went on to do $500,000 a month. And I was just like, dude, congratulations, this is insane. Here's a watch. And so I do this at a pretty good degree, and I think I could probably even do better at this. But I would encourage you, if you're not pursuing those relationships, investing into those people, or just paying to be in the right groups, the right masterminds, the right programs, I've joined so many at this point, and every single one I come up with one or two key relationships that take the price of the thing and just turn it into dust. It's just 10x the value week one, because I'm the kind of guy that just puts a post in there like, hey, here's what I'm working on, here's all my problems, here's what I'm facing, anybody like this, anybody want to mastermind, hang out, and then those relationships are just so valuable. So I think that getting in the right rooms, getting in rooms where people are trying to achieve the same things as you, and feeding off of that synergy is just a massive life hack. So that is something that I've seen that they practice, I practice, and it's something that consistently is a theme throughout all the rich that I have met. So the sixth and final way that the rich think differently is that their bar for what's worth celebrating is much higher than yours. And what I mean by this is, granted, you got to smell the roses on the way up, right? You got to enjoy the journey. But I've also found that those who do really, really well, they're willing to delay those celebration moments, those moments where they, call their mom and tell them what happened, or set up a party with their day ones, or whatever you're going to do, right? It doesn't matter. They take that, what was once celebratory, and if they're going to celebrate, it's a short snippet of a second, and they get right back to work. Because, you guys, I got to tell you, the people that do well, they prioritize the results themselves. They're not here to celebrate the results unless it's absolutely mandatory, unless they've got a team. I've got a team, I'll take them out and celebrate with them because I want them to feel good. But being the guy who runs the thing, I just want the results. I want the business to grow. I want us to have more profits. I want us to continue to rise in our authority and dominance in the marketplaces that we're in. And in that, I'm not trying to, celebrate. It's not, I might give some money here and there, but I'm not here to party all the time. And this is just something that I think is such a devious lie in the entrepreneurial space right now. We've painted entrepreneurship as this constant hip hop rapper rock star lifestyle, when in reality the people that are really winning, they're low key. They don't really poke their head up. They just stay on mission. They look at their profit and loss statement every single week. They're willing to have hard conversations with team members. They push the business forward. Of course, they lead with vision and they enjoy that journey. But the reality is, they're not here to celebrate. They're here to get results. And if celebration happens along the way, sure. But it's not something that they plan for. It's not something that they are really that enticed by. It's kind of tough because obviously there's going to be moments where you need to celebrate. You need to appreciate what you've built and look back. But the growth for me always happens in seasons where I'm just planting seeds, and the harvest will come later. And especially during those seasons, you have to just delay the gratification of any celebratory moments. Just keep pushing the thing forward and keep doing what is necessary to grow the business, and maybe celebrate later, but even then, if you're having to fight the temptation to not celebrate because you don't want to slow down, you're probably in this for the wrong reasons. You should want the business to just grow. You should be obsessed with the growth of your business, whatever it may be, and sure, celebrate every once in a while, but the most important thing is just the absolute bottom line growth of whatever you're working on. So their celebration tolerance is much, much higher. Like, they don't need to tell everybody what they're up to. They don't need people to know. They're not here to prove anything to anybody. They're just doing it for themselves, and they just want to succeed and make a lot of money and do something legitimate that adds value to the world. So I hope that this was a valuable video. You know, this was, again, some just very high-level mental habits, some thinking patterns that should enable your furthered success. If you want sort of a step-by-step formula, you know, I've put together a YouTube video that is on this channel. It's the first link in the description. It's the exact same business that I started that got me to my first million, and I've now helped hundreds of people start it, and you can learn exactly how. It's like a free breakdown. There's nothing for sale in it or anything like that. It's just a pure training video. It's going to show you the same business that I started, that I've now helped a lot of people start, and you can learn if it's the right fit for you as well. Most people can succeed at this. I don't think everybody can, but a good chunk of people, if they really apply themselves, it's probably one of the best internet-based businesses to start right now. So if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe, and leave a positive comment letting me know what you learned from the video today, and I'll see you all in the next one.